year we received 183 applications compared to 171 last year. So it's more competitive summer school. This year, we have increase in female participation. We have 18 female compared to 11 last year. It's my big pleasure to welcome all you here. This year, we have much more those who have PhD level or higher level. 25 participants, half of participants already achieved this level compared to 14 last year. So the composition of the school, I think, is very promising, and we hope to have really great results of this summer school. This school won't happen without several very important partners of this summer school. Indeed, this is a collaboration of Ukraine Catholic University and its School of Applied Science, Simons Foundation, who provided funds and other resources. Thank you, David, for helping us even with speakers. National Academies of Science, who helped us organizing the conference and helping with finance, and new organization that was created this year, Lviv Society of Fellows. And I would like to invite for the welcome notes our rector of the Ukraine Catholic University, Taras Dubko. Please, Taras, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yaroslave. Dear friends, dear lovers of data science, and I hope I can call you those lovers of data science, because my connection to data science is through my daughter, who is a data scientist, and she is in love with data science and talks a lot about it. So good afternoon and welcome to the opening of the 8th Summer School on Data Science at the Ukrainian Catholic University. And seeing so many bright minds gathered here is a distinct pleasure. This year, as Yaroslav mentioned, we have 50 motivated participants and 9 distinguished professors participating in the program. I am also thrilled by what will follow during our panel discussion today and also summer school in the next few days. So I would like also to express our deepest gratitude to all those who generously supported our program, especially the Simons Foundation and the US National Academies of Sciences, Engineering and Medicine. It's a pleasure to welcome here today David Spergel, President of Simons Foundation, Von Turekan. I don't see if one is not yet here, but he will come for sure. He is Executive Director of the Policy and Global Affairs Division at the National Academies of Sciences, and Kathy Campbell, Chair of the Reset Ukraine Action Group at the National Academies of Sciences. We also appreciate very much the support of our partner institution, the University of Notre Dame in the United States, with which we have enjoyed very close academic friendship, not only collaboration, for more than 20 years, in which showed unprecedented solidarity with our university during this war. We eagerly anticipate insights from Dr. Nitesh Chawla, Professor of Computer Science and Engineering and Director of the Lucy Family Institute for Data and Society at Notre Dame. I extend our gratitude to the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, and we are also delighted to welcome Dr. Olga Polotska, Executive Director of the National Research Foundation of Ukraine. At the Ukrainian Catholic University, we would like to see us as an institution that strives to make an impact and strives to build networks of impact. And events like the summer school contribute immensely to this purpose. Data science, with its interdisciplinary character, offers more than just enhancements to business processes or scientific discoveries. Today, it has the power and vocation to strengthen the security of our country, protect our people, its dignity and freedom, aid those in need, modernize our country, and also drive our society and economy forward. We know that Ukraine is going through trials, but it is also today a lab for running trials, conducting experiments, and promoting innovations. We are in the midst of numerous trials and experiments, afflicted with calamities and granted with opportunities. On the one hand, global democracy as a system of governance and our allegiance to the democratic principles are being tested during these times. The spirit and strength of our nation are being tried. The resilience of our businesses, universities, and other institutions of our country is put on trial. But on the other hand, the effectiveness of new weaponry and warfare strategies are being tested. We are exploring innovative approaches to energy supply. We are testing the potential of human compassion, mutual aid, and solidarity. One day, we will be testing modern types of cities and villages, modern approaches to education, and the development of society in Ukraine. So now is the high time to seek, do research, and find these new approaches, as well as get ready to implement them. To describe our situation, we can borrow from Charles Dickens that it is the best of times as well as it is the worst of times. As we navigate those challenges, I hope that each of you will find your own leverage of impact during the summer school. Collaborate with your peers, apply your skills, and contribute to moving Ukraine forward. The landscape is shifting, and it is through our collective efforts that we can discover and implement new solutions. This is an exciting time for all those who are involved in data science, so let us embrace it. Let us embrace this opportunity to explore, do research, and innovate. Thank you for being here, and I wish you a productive and inspiring summer school experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Taras. Those who don't know Taras closely, Taras' first degree is in mathematics, yeah, then philosophy. So I would like to pass the mic to David Spergel, president of Simons Foundation. Last year, David was here with us at where is this room. This year, David is with us, but distantly from New York. David, please share your welcome speech to those who are here.
So welcome from New York and from the Simons Foundation. We are very pleased to be able to help support this event. It was a very meaningful experience to come to Lviv, to see the high quality of students, to see the sense of really of excitement and of building Ukraine's future. At the Simons Foundation, I know also my colleagues in the National Academy strongly believe that the future of Ukraine rests on its strengths in mathematics, science, and engineering, that by being an advanced technology country, Ukraine will will thrive economically, be able to better defend itself, and be a beacon for the whole world. As we look around the world, we see data science exploding. This is a moment in which our abilities to use large data sets, learn novel things with rapidly advancing technologies such as the large language models and the transformers that they're based on, are enabling really novel applications. And I'm so pleased that so many of you are gathered here. I've looked at the program. It's an exciting program. I hope you will leave this week not only just with a deeper understanding of different aspects of data science, but inspired to use these ideas to help Ukraine, at its time of war and crisis, and to help rebuild and create a greater society. When I look at the situation in Ukraine today, I am reminded of the American Civil War after Gettysburg, the Second World War after after stopping the Nazis. One wins the war and then rebuilds a society that is stronger, wealthier, and happier. And the basis of this in all these examples was building a society that rests on a deeper understanding of mathematics, science, and its applications to society. And I'm excited to be looking out on a group of people who I think will be an essential part of creating the new Ukraine, and hope that you will be using what you learned here to make Ukraine and the world a better place. So enjoy the school.
Thank you very much, David. Yeah. And I would like to invite Won Turikian as a representative of National Academies. Won, thank you for coming second year in a row. And it is a big pleasure to see you here, host you here. And it's always very inspiring to hear you. Yeah, so the floor is yours.
No pressure. And as you can tell, David Spergel and I have done this so well and so often now together that, David, I don't know if you saw, but I was literally walking into the room as you were finishing your speech. So our timing is now impeccable. But I do want to build on some of the things that David said. So I'm Won Turikian. I represent the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. I run our policy and global affairs work. And really, since the full-scale invasion, with a number of colleagues and partners, including David, including Yaroslav, including Alexei, including so many that we've worked with, Taras, who I just happened to meet in Broughton in the UK very recently, have had, I would say, the unintentional and unplanned reason to be more involved in Ukraine. I don't think, honestly, as much as I love coming to Ukraine and being engaged with Ukraine, if we could turn back the clock to 2022 and not have to be here and not have to do this and not be involved in these conversations around building up science and working on things, I think any of us would take that. It would be so much better to not have the situation you're facing than to see me once a year. And I think, and to see so many of us. We know how much the Ukrainian people are going through over the last really 2.5, and really for many, even over the last decade. And that's, I think that's one of the things. I was driving yesterday, and Yulia, I didn't get to ask you the question, but every time you refer to it, you keep referring to the full-scale invasion. And I don't think it fully struck me until we were driving that the reason why you call it the full-scale invasion is because really since 2014, you've been facing so much as a country. And really it was the full-scale invasion that's the change. So I think for many of us in the United States, recognizing that is also important to understand the importance and the arc of the events now. as I said, we at the Academies of Sciences in the United States have really had, again, the unintended and unrequested blessing of having the opportunity to build a relationship with UKU and this university. And it started last year with a data science school that was really trying to bring together people that, well, some of you actually look familiar. So some of you who were here last year, but even some new faces that really are the future of Ukraine. And the president of Ukraine, by the way. Don't forget, you're the president of Ukraine. You're not just the future. The president of Ukraine, in terms of getting access to tremendous amounts of knowledge, tremendous amounts of experiences, and being able to use that not only in the near term, but to help rebuild a strong, sustainable, and resilient economy and a secure economy over the next decades to come. And we at the Academies are just pleased to be even part of any part of that conversation. We've, as I said, have been in a situation where we've been fortunate because people like David and others have provided some funding to the National Academy of Sciences to support researchers, both Ukrainians that initially maybe came out of Ukraine, but now really spending most of our time focusing on those inside of Ukraine. People like Kathy Campbell, who you'll hear from later on, who has led so many of our efforts in terms of thinking through how to best approach the renewal of Ukraine's science and innovation community. Colleagues like mine, like Franklin Carrero Martinez, who has been truly at my side from the start. We traveled now to Ukraine our third time. He's was with me the first two times as well. And so much of what we are thinking about at the Academies is, what can we do to assist? What can we do to help take what we know is such a powerful scientific community, particularly in the data sciences, do the small things that we can do to help accelerate that, to do things with, I see Svetlana and Dimitro on the line as well, engaging with people that know Ukraine and are in a position where they are now to be very helpful, to help think through new things to do. So we're just really pleased to be part of this. I will just finish by saying the president of the National Academy of Sciences, Marcia McNutt, has wanted me to relay my greetings to everybody here. Marcia really from the beginning has been deeply engaged. We had the opportunity even last month with Marcia leading to host First Lady Zelenska when she came to the National Academy of Sciences. We've had an opportunity to meet with the Prime Minister at the Ukraine Days in the United States, where we were able to, and Marcia was able to announce a science and innovation fund for Ukraine that we're going to be launching, again, with a lot of support. And I don't think it's, speaking at school, say, with David as serving as one of the co-chairs along with Marcia of that group to help us think through how to think more through this. But we look forward for the next week and really hoping it is, if I remember correctly last year, a highly dynamic and highly interactive group that has no problems asking a lot of questions. And since I'm not an expert in data science, it's really great that we're going to have other data experts in data science here to answer all those questions. So thank you, and we look forward to this week.
Thank you very much. Yeah, for such inspiring talk, indeed. Yeah. And because we have a few minutes left before discussion, I have an opportunity to introduce the last partner of the summer school. And indeed, this is a new project. This is a project that was born here last year in discussions that we had after each day. And this is a project that was generously supported by Simons Foundation, and it's called Lviv Society of Fellows. Well, why data science and why Lviv? Actually, there are at least two important things why Lviv is associated with data science. It's Lviv Mathematical Society. Yeah, so that was very vocal between World War I and World War II, and we built our data science research based on the research that was discussed and developed here in Lviv during these times. Also, Lviv is famous for its coffee. And we can't make data science without coffee. And therefore, based on these reasons, and of course, other reasons to support research and innovations, to support young fellows, not only in Lviv, but in Ukraine, we have this project. Actually, what we want to do at this project is to foster cooperation between young talents and already developed researchers. During semesters, every second week we have seminars and we have informal discussions after the seminars, just to create closer relations, to encourage participants in the seminars to collaborate, to write joint papers, to think about joint researchers. And this year, the senior fellows of our fellowship are Rostislav Hrenev, professor from Ukraine Catholic University, Bogdan Novosядlый, professor from Lviv National University, Taras Banach, professor of Lviv National University, Christina Hnatenko. Christia, welcome. Christia is here, professor from Lviv National University, and Yuri Holovach, representative from National Academy of Science, academician from Institute of Physics of Condensed Matter. And just recently, 2 weeks ago, we selected our junior fellows, and these are Maxim Tish. Maxim is here, and Maxim will be lecturing during this school. Mariana Krasnitska, Mariana is here. Alexei Ignatenko, Alexei is here, organizing this school, and Alexei Boldarev, he will come soon. I know he is coming. And it's really, if you talk to those people, you see how engaged they are in different events, research events we have here in Lviv. And Alexei is from Kyiv, so he is coming, and he will come to our seminars here. And I encourage you to look to this opportunity. We also provide funding, we provide fellowships, we provide stage to present your research, and this is a project for long term. So you will receive dividends from this project for a long period of time. So you are more than welcome to participate in this project. And if you have any questions, so ask me or other fellows you find here in the room. Just to finish this opening ceremony, I also would like to thank those who joined us today either online, like Dmitro, Patricia, also those who came from other cities. Thank you, Heriori. And we can now switch to discussion. Before switching to our panel discussion, I just want to say that in the case of any, well, quite usual for Ukraine, but unusual for our guest situation of air alarm or something like that, don't worry. Today is a day of our Air Force, Ukrainian Air Force. So they protect us, yeah? And it's because of Air Force, because of our army, we are safe and we can work and have such meetings here. And of course, we are in a shelter place. So we won't interrupt even if we have any alarms. So, and thank you for coming. Welcome to Lviv Data Science Summer School. And we start with our discussion. And first of all, I want to introduce our today's speakers. Some of them already were introduced by, I'll recall and make a maybe a bit longer story about our speakers. So David Spergel, president of Simons Foundation, one of the most renowned astrophysicists in the world, director of the Center for Computational Astrophysics in Flatiron Institute. Won Turikian, executive director of the Policy and Global Affairs Division in the US National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. Won advises to the Secretary of State, to the UN Secretary General on the role of science, technology, and innovation. He has affiliation with Georgetown University, School of Foreign Services, and University College London. Won, please take your seat. I also want to introduce Kathy Campbell. Kathy is a chair of RESET Ukraine Action Group. RESET means Rebuilding Engineering, Science, Education, and Technology in Ukraine at the National Academies of Science. Before that, Kathy has served as CRDF Global President and CEO. CRDF means Civil Research and Development Foundation. She also was the director of Office of International Policy and Programs at the Department of Commerce, Technology Administration, as well as executive director of the US-Israel Science and Technology Commission. These are just few roles of Cassie. Yeah, Cassie, welcome. I want to welcome Olha Polotska, Executive Director of the National Research Foundation of Ukraine. Olha has 15 plus years of managerial experience in the field of research, education, and international partnership. Olga, thank you for coming to this discussion. Also, I want to welcome here co-owner and chairwoman of the supervisory board of Enzym Group. Enzym Group is one of the most resilient biotech companies in Eastern Europe. Enzym Group and their R&D center provide partners in 23 countries worldwide solutions to increase the value of life by implementing biotechnology, bioengineering technology in people's daily lives. Olena, welcome. And Olena is also a senator of UKUS Senate. Yeah. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Yulia Bezvershenko, co-founder of Science at Risk, also senior program manager at the National Academies of Science, where the role Yulia has is to create more cooperation between Academies of Sciences and Ukraine. I have a bunch of questions to ask, and I'll probably start with a remark that indeed the topic we have about research and innovations for Ukraine's recovery is not new. Actually, after the advance of Ukrainian army in 2002, already the world started thinking about how to rebuild Ukraine. And each year, there is an annual conference on Ukraine's recovery. In 2002, it was in Lugano. In 2003, it was in London. In 2004, it was, 2024, it was in Berlin. Next year, it will be in Rome. And at these conferences, it's very high-level conferences where decision makers, policy makers decide how to help Ukraine to recover, to modernize. And indeed, the questions about research, about education, about innovations is a part of those discussions. This year, it was probably the most vocal, and probably this is because and thanks to the support and initiative that Simons Foundation and National Academies and ETH Zurich made a workshop in March 2024 in Zurich, where representatives of different foundations, government agencies, researchers they had a 2 days workshop talking about how to make economic recovery of Ukraine using research and innovations as a mean. Actually, all panelists today, except Olena, were present at this conference. And there are many solutions, many advices to the government that we worked on this workshop. And one of the results of this workshop was the creation of the Science Innovation Fund for Ukraine that we'll probably talk about today. But today I want to kind of put the emphasis not on high-level policy, but just to encourage each of you to look at research innovation, not from the point of view of the country, but from the point of view of research institution, university, research group, or even individual. How can we, at our level, make impact on recovery of Ukraine? And of course, data science also will be a part of this discussion. And I turn to the questions, and my first question will be probably to David, and it's about the role of research and innovation in building the economy and peace. I know your wide experience, and you can probably talk about your experience in US, in Israel, in, I know, post-war Germany, other post-war countries, how they made this. What was the, I know, role of Simons Foundation in these matters, or how do you see the role of Simons Foundation in the future in helping these recoveries? Thank you.
So let me begin actually with the role with the recovery, particularly Western Europe after the Second World War, where this was a role not played so much by Simons Foundation, which didn't exist at the time. It was formed 30 years later, but by the Ford and Rockefeller Foundations, which worked with the US government to help rebuild the academic structure of Europe, to create places like IHES in Paris, to rebuild French mathematics, to make investments and create places like CERN to bring all Europe together. And it was that base in math and science that enabled the resurgence of the Western European economy. And looking at more contemporary examples, I think two interesting places for Ukraine to look at and learn from is South Korea and Israel. South Korea was the poorest country in Asia when it was invaded, and it is now a thriving democracy with a very strong economy. Israel is a country that has found itself with hostile neighbors, and in the position, now of course again at war, but throughout its 75-year history, it has had to maintain a state of alert and develop a very capable military and make a lot of investments in military technology. And I think particularly in the area of data science, Israel is a very interesting model to consider, where Unit 8200, which is an important unit in their intelligence community based on data science, basically their military data science unit, trained the people that then created the startup economy. And it is actually the software and data science sector of the Israeli economy that has driven its transition from a fairly poor country that relied primarily on agriculture in the 50s and 60s and 70s to a thriving technology power. So I think those are all interesting models to consider when we think about Ukraine. And I think it's interesting to think about some of the ingredients that were important there. I think it's important to move towards an academic system that is bottom up, and an economic structure and an academic and business structure that allows flexibility, people to move easily from academia to industry and back to academia, for an environment in which there are venture funds that let people start new companies and succeed and fail. I was talking to my youngest son who spent the last year moving back and forth between New York and Singapore and Beijing as part of a startup. That company has now failed. That, we always hear about startup success, but most of them end in failure. But we want to have an environment in which one takes risks, have failures, and that drives economic growth. And I think that will be an important part of the future of the Ukrainian economy. As mentioned earlier, one of the things that the Simons Foundation is one of actually now many foundations working with the National Academy to help create this Ukrainian Reconstruction Fund, is that we believe that it is now the moment that we need to be making the investments in young Ukrainians like yourselves that will be an important part, as was stressed earlier, of the future and making key contributions in the present. So I'm thrilled that this workshop is happening and glad to be part of this panel. So thank you, Yaroslav.
Thank you, David. One question to you. National Academy of Sciences played a really crucial role in supporting scientists and supporting potential of Ukrainian research within the last 2 years. And how do you see the future of this? And of course, everybody is interested about Research and Innovation Fund. So can you shed a light on that as well?
Sure. Well, thank you, Yaroslav. And maybe I'll start by pointing out that when we first got involved in this in 2022, our initial focus was actually to make sure that we did our small part as scientists in helping other scientists, particularly those that were coming out of Ukraine. And it was a very interesting time, obviously, when so many people were departing Ukraine. And the one thing that we felt that we could help with at the moment was to help make sure that those scientists stayed connected to science. We saw this across all different domains. Artists were helping other artists. Journalists were helping journalists. People that were involved in the culinary world were helping the culinary world. The scientific community has to think of itself as a community. And one of the things we thought very much about was, what could we do in a small way to deal with that? And we started working on areas, and as Yaroslav, as you alluded to, over the course of, and Kathy will speak, I'm sure, to more of this, really started to listen to our colleagues in Ukraine. Listened not just to those sort of things that we were doing, but began to really listen to say, hey, the initial worry that this war was going to last 3 months with not only a full-scale invasion, but a full-scale occupation. And I'll tell you, honestly, our thinking at the time was, we have to try to support as many scientists as we could to be prepared so that if that invasion succeeded, and if there was a concern that there was no Ukrainian research community outside the country, we could help support that. But the bravery, tenacity, and honestly, the technology that the Ukrainian military brought to bear to fight that off in the early months also made us have to think through what we could do differently. And Kathy, like I said, we'll think about that. And one of the things we realized is we needed to shift our focus to funding Ukrainian researchers inside of Ukraine. After, and David can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was after this meeting last year, we came back to Washington, and Franklin and David and I got on a call. I mean, we talked to each other a lot. But we were talking, and we were all saying, what's the big idea? What is the big idea? We've talked about things we are doing, but let's think about a big idea. And David raised a number of the topics that he just raised about sort of what has been learned from history. and experiences that we had. I have experience in the US government and with a number of different funds that have been set up. And I said, you know, we're in a point where it doesn't look like the US government yet is in a position to dedicate large numbers amount of funds to setting up a science fund yet. There's, you know, most of the US effort still is either supporting sort of the budget of Ukraine or very much the military of Ukraine, as we've seen over the last few years. But that organizations like ours, working with Simons Foundation, working with other foundations, could maybe begin to create a what was at the time viewed as a joint fund, but now is more of a science and innovation fund that could help provide the contours and the platform to fill the gaps for the next few years while the efforts and the finances are focused on the military victory, to begin to look towards how do we establish the structures that then governments can begin to contribute to. And so we started this Science and Innovation Fund for Ukraine. And really, those two words are what we're talking about. That how do we make sure to work with partners in Ukraine and many partners outside of Ukraine who are thinking about this, that we have connections to help think about the science system, where investments can be leveraged, where they could be amplified to support science, particularly in the early career researchers, but also that second part, innovation. And I view innovation in three categories. There's scientific innovation, there's policy innovation, and there's economic innovation. And all three of those are interconnected. And so when we say the Science and Innovation Fund, we are talking, of course, about the science part of it, which is the National Academy of Sciences. It would be obvious, but really that piece on innovation is something we take very seriously because it touches on all three pillars that are going to be required to build that next generation of Ukrainian research that's going to contribute to the security and the prosperity of a country going forward.
Thank you, Juan. I'll have a question about that later for everybody, but about how to turn research to innovation. But let's first have this first round of questions. And Kathy, you had really huge experience in managing international research cooperation in different roles. And do you see some, I know, optimal way how we should establish those cooperations, both on the level of countries, like, I know, Ukraine, US Foundation, something like that, like Israel has, and other countries have. And another point is how institution within Ukraine, research institution from the National Academy of Science or university can optimally establish such kind of cooperation on the international level, so to enhance Ukraine's recovery. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. I've been to Ukraine many times throughout my career, but this is my first time in Lviv, so it's especially nice to be here. So as mentioned earlier, I've been leading this so-called Reset Ukraine Action Group for the academies. And over the last 2 years, we've convened Ukrainian and European and US experts to talk through a lot of these issues that affect the ecosystem for science and technology in Ukraine. And we've learned a lot listening to our Ukrainian counterparts. And we're going to continue this process because one thing we found too is that there's still a huge need to keep educating people in the United States about what the reality of the situation is in Ukraine, the many opportunities that exist, the talent of the people here. So that's what we're going to keep doing, as well as identifying specific policy issues that we might be able to impact or at least help inform by sharing examples from different countries. So I think my short answer to your question about an optimal approach is that I think there probably isn't one, that you have to take into account the realities of the situation in any country or between two institutions in building international cooperation. I have to say that when I think about the 2 years since the full-scale, or 2.5 years since the full-scale invasion, I'm really impressed with everything Ukraine has done to try to promote international cooperation. The work NRFU has been doing in partnership with many similar foundations around the world has been tremendous. What universities like UKU are doing to partner with universities around the world, it's really, really impressive. And events like this week's course help to further the potential for international cooperation. I wanted to say a few words directed to all of you, and congratulations on being selected for this week's course. I was thinking about what to say to you about how you can help this process and what you can do at the end of the week. And a couple thoughts on that is that as people have said, you're the future of your country and the present, and you can play a role in helping to promote more international cooperation between scientists in Ukraine and elsewhere. You need to spread the word about what you've learned here and definitely follow up and stay in touch not only with each other, but with the international contacts that you make here. These are the kernels that you can use, or the foundation that you can use to start building relationships with scientists abroad and to start thinking about how you might be able to work to promote international cooperation. And of course, institutions have a big role to play as well, because students graduate, they go on to other roles, and the institutions remain. So they will continue to have a big role in looking for good partnerships overseas. In one of the workshops that we had someone from the UK talk to us about the twinning program that they have, and UKU is involved in that. And they talked about how important it is to enter international partnerships, at least institutionally, with a view of being in it for the long haul. That thinking about, you have to have a strategic vision of how universities are going to work together to build a lasting program of science cooperation and education. So I think that's something to think about at the outset. The other thing they said is how important communication is. Communicating about what your goals are, being able to communicate to the community, to policymakers about your objectives, and be able to communicate the impact of the work that you're doing. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Kathy. Ola, question to you. I can say that you're indeed on the front line of research and science in Ukraine. Actually, the numbers that Ukraine, our government, can spend on research is the really small percentage of our budget goes to research and development. It's less than 1%, less than 0.1%, 0.17, yeah. And when we heard this number, it strikes us a lot. And I understand that it's really, with such a small amount of funds, if we have no international support, it's really a front line. It's really a fight for science in Ukraine. And National Research Fund is newly established, I should say, organization with a very Western approach to that. So we within this initiative, I think that Ukrainians became more modern in talking between state, government, and our researchers and research institutions. So how do you see, what kind of project you have now, and how do you see short run and long run future of the fund?
Oh, thank you so much for the question. And well, I'm very happy to be here. And actually, I was here last year. That's my second time, and that the atmosphere is amazing. And it seems to me that actually, well, the camp is becoming more and more popular, which is a clear sign of success. So thank you so much. And that's truly a privilege being able to address you and to be able to address you in such a good company. So, well, answering your question about our plans, and well, the thing is that we are well, kind of. That's true that we are on the front line, but maybe not of well the research as such, because research is done by researchers, right? So, well, we are on the front line of the institutional and organizational aspects of how to do that effectively, and at least do our best to come close to the European and global standards, how it is done. And you're quite right. So the foundation was launched, well, quite a short time ago. Well, because normally when I communicate to my colleagues in Europe, so their foundations exist for dozens of years, sometimes even more than 100 years. And we're very young, but at the same time, we speak the same language, which is already a very important thing for us and for the research community, I hope. By the way, Kathy mentions just well, addressing you, saying that you asked, well, that would be very nice if people start feeling themselves as a community. And Vaughan mentioned also, yes, so well, when in the first months of the full-scale invasion, people started helping each other, including in their professional spheres. And that was followed by the research community. And it seems to me that, well, these terrible things that happened in Ukraine that also, well, had a kind of an, I wouldn't call that an added bonus, but kind of a positive thing, that feeling part of the community is also a very important thing. And the National Research Foundation of Ukraine, as an institution, we also feel part of the community. Though we're not a research performing organization, we do fund research, and hopefully we do shape even the policies. I don't mean on just, well, the policies in the direct meaning of this word, but I mean just the practices, how it should be done in Ukraine. As for our plans, I hope that just, well, even by understanding that, well, we have recently finalized 3 new calls, and already have that happened just, well, a month ago. And one of the calls is aimed at rebuilding research infrastructure. I do think that people, I'm just, well, people from Ukraine understanding how much damage has already been done to, well, critical infrastructure, research infrastructure in Ukraine. And unfortunately, the process is ongoing. It seems to me, well, that's going to be kind of a signal for you to understand how optimistic we are. Well, because normally, even talking about, well, in countries experiencing any military aggression, again, coming back to history, thank you, David, for providing us with these brilliant historic examples. That's true. But thinking about, well, rebuilding research infrastructure normally comes after the, well, this acute phase. So we have already started thinking about that, and I think that's a huge privilege, and that really is supposed to show both established researchers and, very importantly, early career researchers, how important it is to start rebuilding and start planning even now. Then I'm also, well, so grateful to, well, my colleagues, well, who are present here, either remotely or physically. I mean, just, well, well, colleagues and I can already say friends, truly, for this support. And by the way, Vaughan, that was a revelation for me today when you mentioned that in the first, I was addressing everybody and saying, please start helping the researchers staying in Ukraine. And that's true that in the first 2 or 3 months, nobody was responsive. Now I understand why, by the way. So for me, it's also, well, kind of well, it might be kind of shocking information, but it's very good to understand how you were moving in your logics. So, well, and I'm so grateful to you that you have always been listening and you are listening. And actually the facts that this Research and Innovation Fund, kind of its idea resulted from your communication with your Ukrainian counterparts and understanding the needs of Ukraine. That's amazing, truly. And well, I can share very quickly, hopefully, quickly, my experience of working with the National Academies of Sciences and the National Science Foundation. The thing is that sometimes when you start a project, and that's a project that was a huge project, you don't see kind of, well, though you have the plan on paper, you even have some kind of workflow and the stakeholders involved and people involved, but you don't visualize the outcome. And sometimes this is embarrassing. This never happened when I started working with the National Academies of Sciences and the National Science Foundation, and when we launched this multilateral initiative, ImpressU, and it's still running, and it has been over. We didn't expect that to be so successful from the very beginning, and that gave me as a professional and the National Research Foundation of Ukraine as an institution much hope that this can be done, though at the beginning that was really difficult. So, well, again, addressing and just speaking about our plans, that's definitely fighting for the budget. I mean, the budget that, because we normally operate public money, and this is not easy, you understand, even proving to the decision makers that research and development projects are a priority in the country that is at war. That's a challenge. But at the same time, we have been doing that, hopefully quite successfully, but at the same time, diversifying the opportunities for Ukrainian researchers, and not only researchers, I would say also research managers and administrators, which, also a very, very important part of the whole ecosystem. So these are actually our plans. So, that's working with just, our national calls, launching new ones, and, the design, make the design of them as important and useful for the country as possible, and at the same time launch new initiatives, bilateral, multilateral, with our foreign partners. So this is actually the short-term plan, and for the longer-term plan, it's of course struggling for just the budget. You mentioned this miserable 0.17%, struggling altogether, and persuading the society and the decision makers that should be at least 2% of the GDP of the country. So that's the long-term plan.
Thank you, Olga. Actually, in South Korea, it's about 5%, as far as I remember. Yeah. If talking about long-term perspectives for Ukraine. Yeah. Olena, a question to you. Actually, one, when talked about last year, mentioned that you need, or you want to listen Ukrainians and see the needs from the on the ground, so right here. And today there is a possibility to see the needs or perspective of the business, how business participate in this recovery of Ukraine. And indeed, there are a lot of stories, a lot of cases, and I hope there will be a library of business cases about resilience of Ukrainian business within these years. And the business of Olena is very important for Ukraine because it's related to food. And indeed, it's exemplary for showing this resilience. I know, Olena, you also invest in R&D a lot. So I was, when we met it was 3 years ago or so, I was really shocked by the perspectives and by your vision, how the company will grow. And I also see that it's not only vision, it's now is an execution of that. So can you tell more about how business see the possibility for R&D in Ukraine in this situation? Of course, this situation is very different from normal times. And what is the difference is about?
Thanks for the question. I'm really happy to be here. Honored to be invited. And thank you for your kind words to Ukrainian business. We really think, we do believe that we are resilient. We knew that we are resilient even before the full-scale invasion, but now it's just 2.5 years have proved that. To start from our business, it's true, we recognize the necessity of having R&D and investing into R&D more than 10 years ago when we started actually creating our R&D center, applied R&D center at Enzym, and being focused at applied biotech, especially food tech. But of course, when the full-scale invasion started, we were faced with the question, so what do we do with our R&D activity, which is very long-term, which is actually a strategic effort, which doesn't bring us necessarily any income at the moment. And it took us about a week to think of, okay, so are we still looking at the long-term strategy, or we are only focusing on the day-to-day survival? And we could all see, all our leadership team could see that if we don't have this perspective of the further vision after fair peace or after the victory, it would be very difficult and demotivating. And it turned out to be something which really motivated all the company, not just our scientists and R&D employees, but everybody. It sort of was an insurance that we are here, that we are not just trying to survive, we are still building our future, and we are working on our strategy as it has been decided a few years ago. So our R&D center practically hasn't stopped working for all these years. It's actually been expanded, and we added some additional equipment. Our annual investment is more than 2%, and if it's with the investment into equipment and infrastructure, it's close to 5%. So that's something that what our business in particular, but generally all other businesses that are showing this resilience in Ukraine and which are looking for competitive advantages, which are really trying now to diversify into Europe, into the world. Our strategy to become a global and international player has been here for some time, but more businesses are joining this effort now. And everybody understands that innovation as R&D is the only possibility to have this competitive advantage in the global world. So more and more Ukrainian businesses recognize this necessity into investing into R&D, into investing in development. And of course, they turn to academic institutions, to scientific centers, and they see that there is a lot of work to be done there, that business can bring, first of all, a fresh view from market, the necessity of market. Actually, Ukrainian business is the only probably interested institution or part of the economy now to invest into the science, into R&D, especially into applied science, because they have the urgent need for the competitive advantage to be resilient and play on the international global market. So they come, they bring view of the market, needs of the market, they bring the efficiency because they need a result relatively fast. And of course, business does recognize that R&D effort and investment, it's a long-term investment, but still they try to keep the focus on what's the priorities and what's needed. And they are efficient in putting their investment into R&D because it's obviously quite limited. So that's more or less in general it. And if to talk about our activities, we also a few years before the full-scale invasion invested into one of the startups which is located here in Lviv. It's called Explogene, and it's dealing with the genomic research and bioinformatic research of the microorganisms and the potential of microorganisms. And we've been supporting this startup because it still is in the development phase for all these years. And we are very happy now that we've received a grant from German Science and Education Ministry which is called Excellence Cluster Grant. It's for 4 years and it's €2.5 million, which will help to create a biotech cluster here in Lviv to bring the sustainability into biotech science here and to actually keep the scientists here. Because what we managed to do when we created the startup, we actually returned back a very successful Ukrainian scientists who were working in Tokyo University, in Saarbrücken University in Germany, in Oxford University, who believed in Ukraine, in Ukrainian science, and they returned. So now with the help of this German grant, we hope that we can expand this activity and show, which is one of the key roles of Ukrainian business, show to Ukrainian scientists that there is a life for them here, there is business, there is demand for their research here, so that we could really prevent the brain drain, which has been happening for years, and especially in the science, because scientists just couldn't see the opportunity where they can apply it, not only in academic institutions, but also in the businesses, because many of them want to work directly in the business and do this science and research effort. Probably that's more or less it.
Thank you, Elena, for your thoughts. So Yulia, before asking questions to Yulia, I want to share the story because Yulia is the person who made all this happen, actually. Last year, it was March 2003, we met in Stanford University on the conference on Ukraine. And 2 months after that, we, by the chance, met in Washington, D.C. on the conference on DSCity. And at this conference, Yulia said, well, you know, there is a one who wants to do something in Ukraine, and sort of, let's talk about this. And actually, we had a talk in a week or two, and just starting to think about the last year summer school. And of course, this year summer school is a product of the last summer school. So Yulia, thank you for your efforts and for really building this research capacity for Ukraine, either on your previous position or your current position. And you are co-founder of the Science at Risk organization. And my question will be about human capital, because we know that many researchers, many scientists emigrated. They run, either it was at the very beginning, or some of them now deciding whether to move to more safer place or stay here. The research production of Ukraine decreased by, I saw numbers between 20 to 30%. I know probably you know better. And the question is, should we work with Ukrainians that remain here? Should we somehow try to return back those who emigrated? Like Elena mentioned, some successful cases, or should we live in this new world and trying to expand this Ukrainian research community all over the world? So.
Thank you for your question. First, I'm very happy that this cooperation happened. I just said that I have really great friends in Ukraine with a really great university who are capable to make it happen, and everything from that you took. And I think this second year just showed that you did great first year. So this is exactly example of building this STI cooperation. You asked Cassie, just people connect people. We are trying to talk, we are trying to figure out how we can help, how we can share our expertise, and then we build from there. And only way how it can be done, especially now. As for your questions, you know, like it will be both. I have PhD in theoretical physics, so I love quantum theory, and like I think reality is very much explained by this type of science. We have both in our real life. Some people gone before the war, before the full-scale invasion, because they saw more opportunities outside, or they just wanted to get some experience and then return back or figure out. Some people were forced to go because of the war. Some people may decide to go later. But the real question is, are there opportunity inside Ukraine to be a researcher? As Elena just said, if I'm a citizen of Ukraine, if I believe in this country, I want to be part of joint efforts, and I want to grow up as a professional here. Can I really do it in one of the research institutions, universities, and so on? It is crucial. It was crucial before the full-scale invasion. Of course, now we have additional, it's safety. There are a lot of identities in us. Yes, we are parents, we are daughters and sons. So there are a lot of things, and of course it will matter. But professionally, for a researcher, what is the most important thing? To do research. And especially if I'm theoretical physicist, it's easier for me, like I need to have paper and some quiet place. But if people rely on infrastructure, if they rely on community, if they rely on data, they need to have access to it. They need to have this environment. So our question, and the same for people who are inside Ukraine, who do not want to go anywhere or decided not to go, is again, for them, we need to provide these opportunities too, and for overall sector, and then for this recovery, and like for this present and future we already discussed today. We are really interested to have very strong STI sector, which is capable not only to produce excellent research, but is capable to support business in their search for the global market, and excellent there. We need it to the society, which has a lot of challenges for researchers to solve. We need it for public policy, for decision-making for government. And with the war, there are much more coming. And all the questions we have in Ukraine, they are so complex, they are so non-trivial that there is no book anywhere written the answer what to do with ecological damage, with societal damage, and so on. So this is a huge place for all of us to be there. And I think for the researchers globally, it's also like Ukraine as a case, like personally people want to help, but also professionally, they just see the scale of these challenges. And through our workshops in National Academy of Sciences, we saw how much people are interested to support professionally too. So this is the question, like how to build this. And I think there are layers, as you said, like we can look at the national level, we can look on the international level, what can be done, and we can look on the institutional inside Ukraine and even on the personal. On the international level, I think what Academy is doing and Simons Foundation is doing, and a lot of great people in different countries and institutions, it's like trying to build these bridges to ensure that there is transfer of expertise. And this expertise outside can be both like our foreign friends, but it can be Ukrainian scientific diaspora, professional diaspora too. They just needed to be included in these knowledge networks. Then we will be all working together, and it doesn't really matter where you're geographically. If you think, if you work, if you provide your professional support or influence decisions in Ukraine. If we are talking about national decision making, of course, it's about dialogue with researchers. Unfortunately, we do not have so much of science advice instruments, and like researchers are producing their knowledge, but this knowledge transfer into heads of decision makers or documents, it's very hard to do. And I used to work in government, leading the Directorate for Science and Innovation, and even being a researcher and like knowing how much it's important, just this machine is working so quickly and so crazy and so anti-scientifically, I would say, that it is impossible almost to get this knowledge into this machine. So it should be changed. There is a lot of interest and experience in different countries how this can be included into it. So these are policies about both making researchers' lives better, both about dialogue setting, how we can talk together, business, society, researchers, and national and local government, and of course about finding the place for science. Like, why do we need science in Ukraine? During its 30 plus years of independence, we like just say, we have science, let it be there. We give you a little bit of money, just do not be too sad, and like, we will run. With education, a little bit better because it's part of our culture. Yes, we all want our children to have higher education diploma. We also do not know why they need it. But it's some part of like, we need to do that, and then your childhood is over. Parents did their job. But with science, really, it's not part of economy. There is no clear answer what economy we were building, what we are now building. Only with war, there is more interest in this deep tech, in defense tech, military tech. Now we start building these bridges, but we need to extend. It's much more. We understand science is not only about that. So it's about articulation, or I don't know, building the vision, building this place for researcher to be in. And then it will also solve the problem of young researchers. We saw the numbers of people who decided this year to start their professional paths in chemistry, in physics, and so on. And it's really awful to see this, and it hurts a lot. But just these people do not see, like, if I today decide to go into this profession, how tomorrow I will help this country to win, to sustain, so on. So these are questions we need to answer. On the institutional level, like what you are doing, what many universities and research institutions in Ukraine are doing, and NRFU is doing all this time during the full-scale invasion. Reach out to international partners who you already know or who you are interested in. It's impossible that you will write now email and you write, I'm from Ukraine, we're representing this institution, and you won't get an answer. I think it's almost impossible. I think Oля can say that everything they have now nice and with all this call, they started from her emails. And my, for example, my cooperation, the National Academy of Science, also started absolutely cold email, like, hi, I'm Yulia, this is my background, I will be in Washington, D.C., you need to meet me. And so, like, you know, so yes, just to be proactive and articulate, this what we can, you know, put into this cooperation. It's not only our needs, but it's also our expertise and people who are with us. And then from that side, they will reply and you will go from there. On the personal level, just the same. Each of you have your own expertise, you have your own personality, you have your own vision. You just meet people, you just write people, you just say, hi, that's me. I'm interested to build something. I'm interested to, you know, as you wrote all in your motivational letters, you're all interested in something. And from that you will build, and I think having all this on all these levels, and then to be connected into networks and working together and trying to find the language, you know, right language, not only, I mean, Ukrainian, English, and so on, but within like science, business, science, society, and the state, it then will work out together, and maybe we will get these answers, and then it will become some more, like, you know, machine which will be producing sustainable effort to reach this percentage, to reach the goals, to articulate why we needed really science and innovation for victory and recovery. And I believe we are capable of doing that because without that, we can't succeed.
Yeah, thank you very much for your really interesting answer and wider perspective. So we had one round of Q&A, and now I have one question to all of you, and I hope you will share your vision from your perspective. And this is a question that actually, again, Won articulated. Is about research and innovation and commercialization. So how we transfer from research, from writing papers, as we are accustomed to do. Within the last 30 years, usually the final result of the research is a publication, and without any transfer of knowledge and without any commercialization was a common way of doing research. Now we talk about applying this for economic growth. So that means that not only the percentage of the budget devoted to research should increase, but the percentage of the budget that comes from research should be much higher in order to finance these research efforts. And for many, it's really a challenge how to cross that line from just doing pure research to applied research that can be monetized. And are there any solutions for that? I can propose several that I think might be an answer, like interdisciplinarity, where different people from different fields think about something and it creates value added. It can be networks, as you mentioned, when we create something with those who already have this ability, have this knowledge how to transfer knowledge. Or because of necessity. Actually, when we faced this aggression, Russian aggression, we start thinking about drones, and we have more than 500 startups now. Some of them are indeed R&D startups. And we have more than 100 types of different systems of drones. So because we needed them today or yesterday, and not in a year or even in a month. So are there other things that can encourage or can teach our researchers, all of us, how to commercialize our research, how to make it working for our economy? David, would like to start?
Yeah, let me raise a couple suggestions and things to think about. I think that, let me start since Yaroslav, you asked the question, turning to the role that I think universities can play and university leadership can play. And I think it's important that universities are flexible with their students and faculty. I think one of the models for startups that I've seen work well is when faculty take a year or two leave from the university and help form a company, or graduate students take a year or two leave from their PhD programs and start a company. And I think giving people the flexibility to leave and come back at universities is a very important ingredient. A second piece I want to stress, and this is really for the students and researchers thinking about forming companies, is the importance of partnership. As someone often with the technical expertise, and that's the sort of people I think will be sitting around the room, you will often want to find partners who know more about marketing or finance. Building a company is something that requires a wide range of skills, and you want to build a team that you can trust. And finally, one of the things I think will be important is to look to the export market and to take some of the things that are being developed in Ukraine in areas like drones, robotics, AI, and find international partners to work with. I was talking recently with friends in Taiwan, and I know many people there look to Ukraine and its defense against aggression as a role model as they face their own threats, and think about Ukrainian technologies as things that they want to learn from. So I think one can look for partners in places like that, and the Philippines and elsewhere, as we think about ways to commercialize and spread some of the technologies that are now being developed in Ukraine.
Thank you.
Is this on? Yeah. So I wanted to make a couple comments on that. David mentioned partnerships, and one idea is definitely to build on the partnerships that you already have. For example, UKU has a partnership with Notre Dame, which has a very good business school, and they have, good engineering and science departments. There may be opportunities there to work with them and develop some specific programs that can help build the experience and knowledge for students who may be interested in pursuing that path down the road. At government, there are examples of government programs around the world. David mentioned Israel. They've launched over the years a number of different programs. They have an innovation authority that focuses on funding, pre-commercial R&D, funding links between research and business and research and investors. So that's another approach. And I was going to mention one more, but it's left my head. It must be jet lag. So I'll end my comments there.
Thank you. Thank you. Elena?
I would like to build on the necessity of the ecosystem, building an ecosystem, which is not really that much existent in Ukraine. Unfortunately, it's much more in the data science and generally in the IT, because of the strength of IT industry, which only shows how important is business as a driver of creating this ecosystem. I think that's a key to success. And I really hope that we in biotech and food tech will follow the step of the development of digital sciences and creating this ecosystem. We are trying to do that. We actually started a so-called Food Tech Summit last year, and we will hold it in October again. We are trying to bring, first of all, food tech businesses together to identify the problems and needs. And then we have a platform for startups, and we also hope to involve scientific institutions to create this platform for exchange of ideas, for networking, and looking for investors, matching ideas with investment and source of commercialization. I think the entrepreneurs and startups is also key for the success of commercialization. And I was struck by one of the example which I heard when I was visiting Iceland recently. There was a presentation of one of the Icelandic owners of one of the Icelandic unicorns, where he was actually giving the example how one startup can increase GDP and the economy of the country immensely, where he, as a former university researcher in health sciences in medicine, identified the need of creating things to heal the skin, the burned skin much faster. And before it was done with a human skin or pig skin. And he identified that it's much easier to do it with a fish skin. And Iceland, one of the key export parts of the economy is cod fishing and frozen cod, which is then exported. And there is a lot of things which are thrown away, including skin. So by having his startup successful, he actually increased the value of the cod industry by 20%, which is a direct impact on the country's economy. And even so, he said, the idea is nothing. Sales is everything, because he managed to make his startup successful only when he entered US market and managed to bring the big sales team and started selling to Medicare and Medicaid and putting the system in place. So startups is key. And just to add also case from our industry, from biotech industry, global biotech industry, because it's a huge dilemma. There are small labs, small startups who are working on technology, working on products, and then they have a huge problem in industrialization, commercialization, because when you're doing upscaling, either in pilot plant or a big industrial production, it doesn't go. It's not efficient. It's not cost effective. So this partnership of smaller lab startup and bringing it up to commercialization, actually to the consumer, that's where the big industrial players are needed, which need to recognize and are recognizing now the necessity of this entrepreneurship and ideas which are created in the small labs. And this contact of small startups with the big industry and their partnerships is key. We see it on the market in pharma a lot, and it's happening in food tech at the moment as well, but also in many other industries as well. That's
okay. Thank you. Nancy, did you want to?
Yeah,
I think you found your third point.
Yeah, and it relates to the previous comments, and that is go out and talk to customers. The best idea in the world won't succeed unless there is a customer who needs it and is willing to pay for it, whether it's the government or the defense sector looking for drones or Icelandic fishermen. You need to understand what the customer needs.
And I'll just add two things. One is just to tell the rest of the story on what happened when Yulia and Yaroslav met. From my end, in May, and David, I think you remember this, we had a meeting with a number of people, including the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, to think about ideas about what we could do. And David said, you know what would be great is if we could do a summer institute on data science. And this was May 10th. I remember it was my daughter's birthday. And then David said the thing that I think to this day, none of us believe. He said, and I think we should do it this summer. And so in 3 months, because of you, Yaroslav, and because of you, Yulia, we were able to find a wonderful host and so much other. I'm just going to add one thing on this piece, and Kathy, it actually plays on what you said. About 2 weeks ago, I was in Rwanda, and I had the opportunity to visit a company. Has anyone heard of the company? Ever heard of the company Zipline? They operate here actually in Ukraine. We talk about drone company. So Zipline is a drone company. It's in Silicon Valley, and I've got a very close friend of ours who is a former very senior person with Apple, and is a sort of serial entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. And he refers to it as the most innovative Silicon Valley company that he's seen. And he's had 2 unicorns that have come. I mean, he's sort of that level of person. And so we were in Rwanda together, and we said, let's go see Zipline. They're operating there. And what was most interesting about it was I had actually seen it 8 years ago when I was in government. It had just started in Rwanda. They had just started with these very early stage drones. It was their version 1.0. And it was a drone company. It was a drone company that was delivering plasma. And Rwanda does not have a very good infrastructure. It's very hilly. To get from one part of Rwanda to another part of Rwanda, it takes 15 hours, and you don't have that when you need plasma with the roads. And so they created this drone company to drop plasma onto these various community hospitals. And one of the things that happened was there was actually a very permissive government policy. The government came in and said, we're going to create a drone policy so that you have predictability. I'm thinking about the ecosystem. The ecosystem is very broad. You have predictability that if you're going to start a drone company here, you're going to be able to operate. And so they had all the regulations and everything that were spelled out. And that was really important. But what was most interesting coming back 8 years later is I met with the head of it, based in Rwanda, by the way. And I said, oh, you're an amazing drone company. He goes, oh, we're not a drone company. We're a supply chain company. And as we walked in, I realized what he was saying. This company that started as a drone company was now the largest pharmacy in Rwanda. They had realized that their platform was drones. The thing they were selling was not just plasma and blood type, but they were making compound. It was a compound pharmacy. They employed 10 pharmacists. They were a company that was constantly redesigning every part of their delivery system to make it lighter. They were always innovating around their core business, which was delivery by drone, but constantly using data. And the reason why they are out in front of most companies in drone delivery, and now they're going to start, they've got contracts with Amazon and Walmart and all these big companies, is because they had in Rwanda a place where they could practice and practice and practice. And every other drone company in Silicon Valley didn't actually, they were all doing it, but they weren't doing it with real customers. When you think about what's going on here in Ukraine, is you actually have a lot of experiences that are coming out of the necessity and building things that are actually being field tested in so many ways, by the way, not just the military part of it, but delivering of stuff to the front lines. If you want to make money, logistics is a really good place to be. And that is one of the things that presents a tremendous amount of opportunity to continue to innovate. And so Yaroslav, when you said interdisciplinarity, it's not interdisciplinarity, it's cross-disciplinarity of thinking about how to take all these things and build something new.
Thank you. Julia?
Not all research should be commercialized. As a representative in previous life of basic science, it's very important to, in public discussion, I mean, it's very important in policy, in political discussion, to say that science is a huge field, and there is some part of it which is basic science, and Olga is supporting big part of that, which is like not about anything which should be tomorrow or day after tomorrow put into money. It might, like our phones 100 years ago started from just curiosity, like what's about atom and light. But it wasn't like every day, have you already provided some dollars or not? It took time, it took patience, it took special instruments which are long-term, which are about seeding, like with trees or grass, you need to just work patiently. So this is first one. And in Ukrainian, unfortunately, it's better in the US, it's better in the European Union, but in Ukraine, it's still like either one part of this spectrum either. Second, it should be recognized. Second, I think it just needs to be articulated while we're teaching students, while it's a part maybe of our PhD programs, that there is an opportunity. Even if you started from basic research, you always can find a place for you to work on more applied, or find some business which might be interested. Even with quantum physics, you can find people who will do very applied IT something, and you will be an expert with PhD who will provide advice on what you know and love, but still you won't be the person who is, like building business plan and so on. So it's also very important both to know yourself, are you interested in, and you can change through your life. You might be not interested, but then become. And second, understand that there is this opportunity and where to go to find this opportunity. That's why all these networks, like places like UKU or like IT clusters here, or this summit you said, like just to know that you can go and listen how people do think about this sector, where your expertise can be applied. What does it mean to shift into more development part of that? It's second, like to raise awareness among people who work in the sector. And third part, I agree with everything already been mentioned. It's very important. And I think third part is about being open to talk to people who represent other stratas of this, ecosystem. Because maybe because of not very good experience many of us have, it's a lot of tension. Like, I don't know, public servants say like, researchers can't articulate things directly. We need either yes or no. Researchers say like, we can't say yes or no. We are saying like this theory showed that and so on. We just different languages, different apparatus, different responsibilities, even like that. The same with business, other mindset, other KPIs and so on. But just to be patient and try to find those with whom it will be comfortable to work, and both sides will try to figure out what is the language, what is the distance, and what place will fit into this interaction. I think just to give it a chance, and I think in Ukraine during last years, more and more places for this are emerging. And again, if you are interested, at least potential, it's just important to find within your specialty region, I don't know, places where people do talk and where you do feel that it feels for you right and you want to be part of that, then try to find mentor, try to find fellows, like co-fellows, and build on that. And then I believe you will find your natural way into that. Or we return to the point one. You can say, no, it's not for me. I want to, sit somewhere, look into window and write formulas, and it will still be okay, because we need these people hardly very much. There are so many complex challenges which need this long-term thinking without thinking about today. Just need to find your place in it.
I'm going to add one thing very fast, because you said it. Every single thing can't be expecting that you're going to get a return on investment, and it's the reason why. And this is maybe the sobering part of it. 0.17% of GDP going to science doesn't offer what you need to have that ecosystem that's larger. The other number is in the US and in most countries, you also don't want 100% of the R&D budget coming from government. In the US, it's about 1/3, 2/3. 2/3 are private sector. Very different motivators. And you need that ecosystem to operate well. So your point exactly on.
Thank you. If you have questions from the floor.
So thank you, Raj, for all the speakers. And my question is more about how to grow these research skills in students, in young Ukrainians. I agree with the statement that Ukrainians are very smart, especially on this high school level. I know from myself, I was able to compare my knowledge with knowledge of other people from other countries at that level. But the question is, how can we grow this research skill set students? Maybe how can universities contribute to this? How can companies contribute to this? And how can we interest students in research in general and show that it's important? Thank you.
I spent some 10 years teaching in Kyiv-Mogila Academy quantum theory to the people who mainly were not expecting to find themselves as researchers, but I still formulated my mission there to help them find passion into doing something like that, challenging and interesting and so on. I believe in two things. First is like imprinting on how to say, when a young future researcher finds someone who loves science, on like just older person who already started to do this science, yeah, and this person is, you know, doing with passion, with integrity, like truly as it should be, it's the best way just to be around and to study from this person. So it's really great examples of universities in Ukraine, which are like research universities, or where research and education are closely together. It's really the best opportunity. We had that at that time at Kyiv-Mogil Academy. Kyiv Academic University is definitely within this model. I think in UKU here, they're also doing that. Yaroslav can tell you more. So it's about like being close to those who doing this and seeing like, what does it mean first? Like what your day looks like, what language these people use, how they live, and also just learning from doing with them together. Because even if you're first year student, you already can do that. And also I spent some time at Stanford University. I can say, yes, there is no other miracles, you know, how they happen to become Nobel laureates, except of infrastructure, which is definitely better, and opportunities. They just like learning by doing. They're in the labs from the first start. And second, you said about the getting young people into research. I think like you always have in society, in this, you know, distribution of people, some share of crazy people who will do research even there won't be money, opportunities, anything. They will just go there and do it. You can't help there, you can save them. But with others, it just, as I said at the very beginning, I think showcasing that in this country, despite challenges before the full-scale invasion, now still there are a lot of great places where people do real science, love this science, cooperate internationally, cooperate with business, do something meaningful, and do it like right with high level of, you know, of results, high quality research. It just makes sense to go there and show this lighter for more society to see it and recognize it. Maybe then parents and children will like this idea more. And connecting this, of course, to victory and recovery, I think today can be a strong help, because of showing that what you do today can be very helpful to your country tomorrow. And science can provide you a workplace for that, definitely.
Thank you. Actually, there is a David hand. Yeah, and then Elena, please. David.
So let me encourage people to get into, if they have not already, to get into research as early and as quickly as possible. You know, this is based on my experience as being a professor at Princeton for over 30 years, that there are students I see who have gotten engaged in research early, thrive in many different directions. Some pursue a career in academia, others learn the skills of independence that enable them to go into the corporate world or start their own businesses and succeed, and I've seen many people do that. I think one of the opportunities in, particularly for people involved in data science, is there's a lot of interesting open data sets available in science in areas like genetics and astronomy. And I think you can learn real skills and be engaged in research at the highest world levels, sitting in Ukraine through access to public data sets. I mean, now is a moment where it is probably difficult to get access to the most advanced laboratory equipment, to sit at the cutting edge, to have the infrastructure that Ilya mentioned that one has at Stanford. But the data sets that are out there are open to all, and encourage you to learn about them and think about ways in which you can use them either for basic science, which I think is important, or for applications that have a possibility of a commercialization in the long run or in the short run.
Thank you, David. So now it's really hard not to find data to work on, yeah? Elena, please.
Just wanted to add that this summer school and similar schools is the best probably possibility to do that, because we are having a similar effort at Enzym, at our R&D lab. We hold annual summer school for biotech students. And why we did it? Because we recognized several times when we went to the students, the biotech faculties, and that they are not planning, practically none of them are planning to work in biotech or in the industry, and they are looking elsewhere, mostly in IT. So we recognize the necessity to show them what the possibilities are, and actually to let them work in the infrastructure that they don't have at their universities, in the real R&D lab, with the real equipment, on the real tasks and projects. And we found that it's a huge source of interns for us and the future employees. And even if they leave or if they go abroad, it's creating a great network of people whose first experience at the industry was at our R&D lab, and it's invaluable. So that's our experience in getting students work with their hands.
Thank you, Elena.
Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. One problem I think a lot about is brain drain and how to address it, how to probably reverse it, how to build let's say, paths for people researchers, scholars who went abroad to encourage them to maintain connection with Ukraine, and how to make Ukraine appealing, attractive for scholars from abroad. And Vaughn, you mentioned actually one thing I think very important is where is the competitive advantage of Ukraine is this field testing ground for many inventions and maybe even testing some new theories in different areas, different fields. And I don't know how much this idea is promoted really internationally and as a ground to establish partnerships. But I think it's important not to underestimate it. Another is what actually David just mentioned is about collecting reliable data and creating these, data sets that could be used in, application of, different inventions and improving, people's lives. And, for example, even let's say prosthetics or, mental health, and actually I wonder if we in Ukraine really collect this data into scientific, manners that could be used. For example, we have new, hospitals, rehabilitation centers created. Do they collect data that could be used, for research purposes later? So I think we could look even more and to see what are competitive advantages for scholars to stay in Ukraine, because they could have access to better data, they could have access to field testing, and maybe there are other opportunities as well.
Here it is. Okay. Hello. No, I'll just shout on this one instead. Taras, I think that's such an important point that you raised. That understanding that right now, so the field that I was in isotope geochemistry. That was my background. And I remember talking to a lot of people during the Fukushima meltdown in Japan. And afterwards they said, you know what we don't really have a very strong sort of pedagogical sort of understanding of is this idea of science during crisis. And there's now a growing space in this. Our president, Marcia McNutt, and a colleague, Gary Mackless, wrote a paper on this. And it's saying, as there's something happening, you actually need the scientific community to think about what are the data we should be collecting and in what form, because it's going to be a critical data set that's going to help us understand the problem both for today, but application for the future. And you mentioned, in the biomedical space, we've had some initial conversations with the folks about the fact that right now there's actually, for terrible reasons, a lot of clinical data being at least observed, if not collected. Let me just go to something that was just discovered in the United States, which almost has sort of it's a no-brainer in terms of the way to think about this. About 8 months ago, there was somebody in Maine who shot somebody. Shot up a lot of people in a bowling alley. Actually, may have even been a year ago. I think I was actually while I was here. And nobody could figure out what triggered this person. Why did this person? And they went through all the different things they've been. And what they found out was the one thing they could look at, there's no history of violence or violence postings or anything else. The only thing they could figure out is that this was a person in the military. And so somebody started to ask the question, oh, but he never was actually like traditional, like looking at things. He was never somebody who was on the front. He didn't have PTSD. Then when they dug into it a little bit further, what they realized was he had spent all of his time as an instructor in an artillery range, and that he was having brain changes from constant reverberations and vibrations. Well, Congress just passed a bill that, fast forward, there was then a relook to say, you know what, that's not then just a problem. And they looked at all the data around it, not just the data being an artillery range. They're now looking at cases where it was people working in construction, particularly demolition. They were showing similar changes to their brain. This was critical to then understand what does a policy outlook look like? And just now, there's been a recommendation to now look at people that have particular frequency exposures to say, are they more susceptible to certain types of brain trauma that would not be viewed as something else, like, being in. So there is all sorts of clinical data that I'm sure is being collected because of the circumstance that can have lots of implications for how you address disease, how you treat disease, and what that means for the space. But those are data that have to be collected in real time. And so thinking about these questions of this group here, you're all data scientists. Not only what data sets exist, but what are the frameworks for which you think the data that need to be collected, and how do you make sure those are in a form, whether they're FAIR data or other formats that make them interoperable and can then be used to then create other forms of knowledge.
I just wanted to add a comment related to what you began with, Taras, when you mentioned brain drain, which I prefer to look at as brain circulation, because having exchange of ideas, having people go abroad and come back, or even if they stay abroad and work with their with scientists in their homeland, that can be a really good thing. But it takes an effort to make that happen. And to be honest, that's one of the issues that our Ukraine Action Group is talking about and likely to do something, look at in greater depth this year, building on some work that Science at Risk did, where they identified some possible policy and programmatic solutions. We are talking to one of the science societies in the US that is interested in reaching out to their membership to identify Ukrainian Americans who might be interested in working with scientists back here in Ukraine. But I welcome ideas and thoughts that maybe we can talk about later.
Thank you very much. We have question, time for one more question. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Just one more question. Unfortunately, I think that we are facing a catastrophe in higher education in Ukraine. This year, the number of applicants to Ukrainian universities had decreased by 1/3. Sure, we need scientists, but only few of brilliant students will stay in science. And my question is, what can we make to stay to make these young Ukrainian students stay in Ukraine and to enter Ukrainian universities, not to go abroad, because they won't come back, I think.
It's not a short answer for this, but if somebody wants to try.
It's now it was complicated question before the full-scale invasion. As now, of course, the safety issue is something which drives parents and their children to make this decision even more than earlier, like only pursuing some potential professional benefits. First, let's start from the end. They won't return. First, we need to ensure they will be welcomed and will be, knew that there is space for them to return. So I think for many of these people who are going now, actually, there might be a strong motivation, to get knowledge. I will get professional training. I will get international connections, and I will be equipped to serve my country better when I return. So we should work with that very strongly and ensure that both there is environment and we maintain this connection somehow. And this is the good question, like how we do, especially with those who are going like for the first year of bachelor studies. It's the most challenging, of course, strata. With others who are going to master degree or PhD, this is definitely, you need to keep connection with 100% of these people, ensure that you are working together. So it's about won't return, about like, I think that by now, because of this forced influx of Ukrainians outside the country, already much more people in the society now realize that then after the border, there is no some miraculous, ideal system, Western education, and so on. Now people, because of they found themselves in different countries and their children are attending school or university there, they just know there is no ideal system anywhere. There are challenges and advantages, just like we do have here, and it's hard to say that it's like somewhere is like one definitely better, especially when you have another culture, another language, another everything. So working on that again, building strong institutions here, providing evolution for the programs, finding resources to connect internationally, from that get advantage, because yes, it's hard to get someone physically here to teach students, I don't know, from some university, but a lot of people will agree, to be online connected, to help to change program, to help to provide several guest lectures online and so on. So to be inventive, to be innovative, just to show, what, we are in Ukraine. We already did a lot of great programs in different places. Yes, we do limited in resources, in infrastructure. There is safety issue, which is we can't predict what will happen, but we are innovative. We are providing high-level education. We are engaging internationally, and we can provide our students something unique, which they couldn't get outside. So working on that, and I think we have already a lot of great examples during these 2 years, of course, in private universities, and this school is one of the examples, but also in public universities. I think people are reaching out. Yes, there are some institutional, like twinning programs, but there are a lot of on the level of some small program or faculty where people we will engage this person, I know this person, and so on. I think it can work out. But on the national level, of course, it's a big challenge. And I think state also should be more innovative, but governmental innovation is even harder to pursue.
I think this question is a great question. It follows up with the question prior about brain drain, brain circulation, brain connectivity. I think there's no easy answer. I mean, as Yaroslav said, I mean, this is a philosophical discussion that a lot of places go through. One of the challenges that I've seen from different sort of work environments I've been in this space of going into places that are conflict and post-conflict is that the diaspora community, and I know that's one of the things you're looking at, it's actually not just oh, there's a diaspora community, just bring them in. It really requires a thoughtful connectivity on both sides. On the side that has left, there needs to be a recognition that what they left is different from what is. And that people have gone through different experiences. The country is different from maybe one that they imagine it being, and maybe romanticize it being, or distress about it being. And on those that have went through such difficult times, it's very easy to look and say, those people left. They're not part of this anymore. It's easy for them to tell me what to do from their wonderful locations in Europe and the United States where they're not getting shelled every day. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge that, again, I've seen in other parts of the world where I've worked. And so there are efforts and there are lots of different examples of things. As I said, I was just in Rwanda. They went through a genocide. And there were people that left and went to Europe and got their PhDs. And what it took actually was a system, and they're a very different country, but a system in place to both attract people back, but to also elevate people in their own countries. Now, what's interesting is, maybe counter, is that they are now attracting back. They have a net migration flow into Rwanda. And the reason why is because it's viewed as a laboratory and a platform for innovation. And so lots of young people are coming back. Maybe it's because they're seeing, hey, every place has kind of got its ups and its downs, but they're seeing opportunity. And I think when there's opportunity, people flow a little bit more commonly. Again, none of this is to say it's easy, because I think it's very hard.
Thank you, Juan. Actually, we are run out of time, but we'll have a chance to talk at the reception. So everybody who has questions, just keep them for reception. I would like to thank all panelists for a great discussion. Just trying to answer the question. The last question is actually the statistic from the end of World War II show that tourism explode after the war. And if this is the case, then after the war, there will be tourism exploded here. And since those who are on the West, the only way to for them to execute tourism is to come back. So, solution. Anyway, there is no silver bullet for many questions that we raised today, but I think what we learned that such events as this summer school, such discussions are needed in order to look for solution, in order to discuss them, and sometimes we can manage to come up with really good solution for some problems. Yeah. Thank you very much. David, thank you very much for waking up earlier today, for being with us. Thank Juan, Kathy, Olha, Olena, Yulia, for your wonderful insights. And I encourage everybody to approach our panelists during reception and continue talking and enjoying this academic life at Ukulu. Thank you very much. And we'll try to make a photo outside of this building. So don't rush, just wait us at the entrance and we'll do a great photo. Thank you.
Yazmin'in